The X-Zone radio and TV show is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone radio and TV show or in any manner endorsed by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, Talkstar Radio Network, its affiliated stations, or employees.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back, everyone. My guest this hour is J Groethe. He's the president of the James Randi Educational Foundation. He's lectured widely on topics at the intersection of education, science, and belief at universities such as, Stanford, Harvard, Yale, UCLA, UC Berkeley, and dozens of others. He's a former professional magician, and he has a special interest in the psychology of belief and processes of deception and self-deception. Joining me now is J Groethe. And DJ, welcome to the X Zone.
Well, thanks for having me, Rob. Look forward to our discussion.
DJ, can you let our listeners know what the James Randi Educational Foundation is?
Well, the foundation, we call it the JREF, the James Randi Educational Foundation, is a nonprofit educational outfit that's founded by the social critic and magician James Randi something like 15 years ago. And our team at the JREF, we work to advance critical thinking and skepticism about untested claims, really about the paranormal, about pseudoscientific claims, and we're inspired by Randi's decades of work in this area. So he's a world-renowned magician, and he's applied his background in magic to investigating and can I say debunking some of the more outrageous paranormal claims out there.
And there are many wild and imaginary paranormal claims out there being made each and every day. And you know what? When we look at the reality of it, in my opinion, the Internet has a big part to play in this.
I think it does, and one thing we've found since the 70s, since the contemporary worldwide skeptics movement really got started with folks like Randi and Carl Sagan and Isaac Asimov and others, at that time it was the media and book publishing that fomented a lot of this belief. So there were claimants out there in the 70s like the Israeli psychic Uri Geller, who was famous because of TV appearances and books out there. Today, belief in the paranormal is inspired a lot by online communities, sort of echo chambers, where believers report experiences to other believers, and it kind of just builds. And, of course, not just the Internet, but cable television, I think, has a lot to do with it as well. You look at the History Channel, Discovery Channel, Sci-Fi, there are a lot of shows purporting to reveal truth about the paranormal when a skeptic like myself might think, well, a lot of it's just produced to garner ratings.
Exactly. I agree with you, because the so-called reality shows are anything but real. And there's a lot of...
especially when it has to do with topics like psychic kids or haunted houses or cryptozoological topics like Loch Ness Monster or Bigfoot. That sort of stuff, or this new show, one of my favorite in this category, about ancient aliens, which begins every segment with an audacious claim and then followed up by the question, but what if this were real? And it really seems to be appealing to the least common denominator when it comes to TV viewers. I think these subjects are worth investigating. They're very important, and they have big implications for how we see ourselves and the world. And I wish that people who peddled this sort of stuff would take the topic so seriously that they wouldn't just be the equivalent of a sideshow barker, but instead really be serious about getting into these claims.
You know, I've been doing this show now for 20 years, and in all my years, I have still not seen any proof that claims of the paranormal are real.
That's interesting that you'd say that, and it makes me want to ask you a question.
Sure.
Does that mean you're a skeptic or you're still open-minded?
I'm still open-minded.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say that because it allows for me to draw a distinction there. The James Randi Educational Foundation, the professionals at our foundation who work to educate the public about these sorts of beliefs and claims in society, I think we are all open-minded too. This is maybe a distinction between cynicism, which says, there ain't no such thing as ghosts or the paranormal, et cetera, UFOs, psychics, and open-minded inquiry, the kind of skepticism I'm talking about, which says these questions are important. Let's really look at the evidence.
DJ, we've got to take our commercial break. We'll be back in 2 minutes. X-Zone Nation. I'm Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone. We'll be back. Don't go away. Witch doctor's power and his ancient tribal ways cruelly collide with the force and authority of modern Africa. Africa is viewed through myriad eyes. You will never forget these characters. A young girl forced to endure a painful, cruel, and antiquated tribal custom. The sole survivor of a vicious tribal massacre. A nun who endures physical assault that compels her to question her faith. A deprived, disadvantaged schoolgirl who is infected with HIV. The translucent soul of a murdered friend. Welcome to Africa's Unfinished Symphony. While the tale of South Africa in the wake of World War II is riveting, violent, and cruel, it is also brimming with stories of kindness, compassion, and courage. Africa's Unfinished Symphony highlights commanding characters who not only bring haunting racial clashes to life, but also convey the intense conflicts that existed between archaic customs and modern influences. You will be captivated as you follow the convoluted path of Farida, of the ancients battling to become Bertha of the modern world. But are the outcomes of her struggle the best results for her and her beloved Africa? Africa's Unfinished Symphony will immerse you in historic African themes that will jolt you out of complacency and into compassion. For more information on how you can get your very own copy of Africa's Unfinished Symphony, visit www.luciamann.com. That's www.luciamann.com.
Well, I just got back from Roswell, where the aliens have been. And if you ask the feds the cause, well, they'll only lie again. Now I'm hunted by the gumshoes, and I'm wanted by the cops, 'cause they think that I might be the guy making circles in the crops. And I know that there's a conspiracy from the voices in my head. Elvis lives, that's clear to me. It's McCartney who is dead. And if the Mars men should come again and take me, I will go. I will take a trip on their rocket ship. God bless the UFO. Give JFK this message. It's the Cuban Army's fault. And I know that Dave Koresh is alive inside a vault. We've seen reports in papers of a guy who knows about a car that runs on chewing gum, but the Arabs rubbed him out. And we loudly warn that America is badly unprepared. With the Cold War through, we need something new that can get you good and scared. Do you wonder just who is warning you of conspiracies today? We're the ones who fill the rumor mill. We are the CIA.
Explanation, DJ Groethe is our special guest. He's the president of the James Randi Educational Foundation. The website is www.randi.org. That's RANDIORG. Why do you think in today's society, with all the high-tech gadgetry that we have at our fingertips, DJ, that the paranormal seems to be growing with, as a fascination for so many people?
I think two factors. One, these are eternal questions, so they won't go away just because new science, new technology is on the horizon. These are questions that are, in some sense, really at the core of who we are as people. Ecclesiastes in the Bible says eternity is written in the hearts of men. Well, these questions are kind of basic to our nature. What happens when we die? Can we communicate with deceased loved ones? Is there anyone out there? Are we alone in the universe? These are big questions. So that's one. The questions are here to stay. Two, I think technology, certain lines of technology, actually help us ask these questions better, or at least in some cases, especially when you look at the blinking lights on the gizmos they use on those TV shows, they help us ask these questions in more sensational ways. So rather than just listening to a so-called psychic intuitive to see if your ghost is haunted, you get out your night vision camera, a product of great technology, technological advances, and you look at the blinking lights gizmo, and it just feels more scientific, therefore maybe a little more credible. It's not as easy to just say, oh, this is a person's religious belief. No, it has the air of science with it. So there's those two factors, I would guess.
Something that amazes me is you get these ghost hunting shows that go around to all these haunted places. They're there during the daytime. They don't see any ghosts, and yet they put night vision goggles on at night to see the ghosts. Now, isn't that counterproductive?
Well, I think it's really productive if you're a producer who wants to get some ratings on
sure.
a cool TV show.
Yeah.
But it's, from a paranormal investigation standpoint, seems to me the best way to see if there's something really there is not to turn out the lights and to scare yourselves. So many of these shows, the drama is in where the on-camera hosts get freaked out and there's screaming and it's very spooky, and that's good drama for the TV.
Right.
But if you're serious about these questions, you would investigate a paranormal scene much more like you would look at a crime scene. You would use the best investigative methods, say from forensics, and you would take eyewitness testimony and understand the perils of giving too much credence to eyewitness testimony. And you would overturn every rock and look in every nook and cranny, not just turn out the lights and spook yourself on camera.
Yeah, it's rather amazing that you have so many people who are calling themselves researchers, parapsychologists, and investigators who know nothing about what they're talking about.
Right. So many of these characters know nothing just about basic investigative methods. Seems to me if you're going to look into a claim, you should apply the best methods that researchers have. And that, when you're looking at paranormal scenes, that seems to be coming from forensics, actually looking at evidence. If there was a visitation, did the poltergeist leave anything behind? Can we study it? Can we look at it? As opposed to doing what so many of these investigators fall into, which is looking at very loosey-goosey evidence and falling into the psychological pitfalls of really the cognitive biases that let our big brains put meaning into the noise. So you remember back in the 70s there was backmasking with music. Well, now there's the white noise where you just record something and you listen to it backwards or maybe even forward, and then you try to figure out what the message is. Right. And this is in oral version, a kind of an audio version of pareidolia, which is a function of the brain to make sense out of noise or out of let's say, insignificant data. So anyone can do this. You look up at the clouds, and if you're somewhat creative, you can see faces in the clouds. That does not mean that there's a big giant head floating in the blue sky. No, it's that we have an ability to make meaning out of that data. And that's what so many of these paranormal researchers, in quotes researchers, because I don't consider it real research, that's what they do when they're looking for evidence of the paranormal.
You know, when we talk about evidence in the paranormal, one of my biggest bones of contention with the Roswell UFO crash is how Jesse Marcel himself, supposed to be a highly trained military intelligence operator, broke the chain of custody with what he claimed to have been the most important piece of evidence in the UFO the UFO discussion argument. You know, when he left the ranch with what he claims to have been UFO parts, went home to his family, woke his family up, let them manipulate the evidence, and then took the evidence back to the airbase. No one has been able to tell me why this has not been questioned.
Well, I think it has been questioned by skeptics, but for the credulous, they don't think about evidentiary claims like that. If you believe that Roswell is an example of an alien visitation, you're not going to let contrary lines of evidence suggest otherwise. You kind of begin with the belief and then only look for those lines of evidence which support your prior belief. What really amazes me about the Roswell claim or so many of these other visitation claims, alien visitation reports, is that social science tells us a whole lot about eyewitness reports, about eyewitness testimony, and how messy that is and how unreliable that is. And yet in UFO sighting after UFO sighting, the believer community, the credulous, the UFO community, they take reports at face value, assuming that, well, the guy would have no reason to lie, therefore what he's saying is true. And there's a third option there. A person can be believing that they're telling the truth and still be flat out wrong. You get this in our criminal justice system all the time with eyewitness testimony that's just plumb wrong, but it's not a lie exactly, it's just incorrect.
Because the person giving the testimony believes beyond a shadow of a doubt he's telling the truth.
Exactly. Even though, because of reconstruction of memory and because of how unreliable eyewitness testimony is, he or she's not telling the truth. I mean, I don't want to sound too new age about this, but yes, in a sense, he's telling his personal truth, yes, right? In that he's not lying. He's sincere.
Right.
But you can be sincere and still be wrong at the same time.
Why do you both think, or why do members of the Foundation believe, how has Roswell stayed alive for this long without having any evidence whatsoever to substantiate any of the claims being made by any of the researchers?
I think it's a pop culture phenomenon. It is explained in the social sciences when we look at the growth of widespread beliefs. And indeed, that's what the James Randi Educational Foundation is interested in, these widespread beliefs. UFOs, you mentioned Roswell, ghosts, cryptozoology, what's called complementary and alternative medicine, a lot of alternative kind of, I'd say, questionable medical modalities. All of these are believed in widely, despite the fact that there's not a whole lot of evidence. There's somewhat outside the bounds of science. There's not a lot of evidence to support them. And I think sometimes this isn't just a matter of personal belief, but that these beliefs cause great harm. Now, if you believe in a U.S. government cover-up about Roswell and you believe that we have been visited in the 40s, that's not immediately going to be the most harmful false belief. I think it might open the doors to other sloppy thinking. It might make you a little more gullible, a little more susceptible to being beguiled by other hucksters. But many of these beliefs hit you where you live and breathe. If you have appendicitis and you go to a psychic surgeon instead of the ER, you will die. And that's just one sort of example that many of these false beliefs have real-world consequences. And it's not a matter of merely having a different perspective, but that believing something false can harm you.
DJ, stand by. We've got to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. X-Zone Nation DJ Groethe is our special guest, or Groethe is our special guest. He is the president of the James Randi Educational Foundation. The website is www.randi.org. That's RANDI.org. 1-800-610-7035 worldwide toll-free. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com, and our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. I'll be back on the other side of this news break with DJ as we continue talking about, well, what it's like to be open-minded, closed-minded, and then what it's like to be, well, in your own little mind, your own little way of thinking that you're right and the rest of the world is wrong. We'll be back. Don't go away. Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. Are you or is someone you know struggling with addictions, depression, anxiety, relationships, low self-esteem, lack of confidence, grief, success, and prosperity? Do you know that your subconscious belief plays a big role in the outcome of your hard work? We can help you permanently change the beliefs that may be the reason for your struggles and failures. We care about getting you the return on your investment and the results you are looking for. We can help you be free of the limitations of your past and in realizing your highest potential. We work with people by phone and Skype. For more information, visit us at www.ritasoman.com. That's www.ritasoman.com. You're listening to the X-Zone Radio Show, live and around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network, X-Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio, Euro High Definition Radio, and Star Cable. Our toll-free telephone number worldwide is 1-800-610-7035. Our email address, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com.
I made love to an alien near Roswell last night. We strolled along together in the pale moonlight. I had a funny feeling that something wasn't right. I made love to an alien last night. When she gripped my hand, I was feeling mighty fine, but her fingers with mine would not intertwine. When I bent down and gazed into her eyes, they were bigger donuts and blacker than the sky.
Welcome back, everyone. DJ Groethe is our special guest. He's the president of the James Randi Educational Foundation, www.randy.org. DJ, in your opinion, what is the most dangerous scam out there that people are being taken in by?
Well, I think it's hard to rank them, but one that I focus on, partly because of my own background as a magician and psychic entertainer, and because I've seen firsthand the harm these beliefs can cause, it would be belief in psychics and spiritual mediums, psychic advisors, and when people go to them for big problems they're facing in their lives. That's one I focus on. Although it should be said, the Randi Foundation, our attention runs the gamut through all of these untested, unsupportable claims, and we especially focus on the kinds of beliefs that we think cause measurable harm.
You know, we've had psychics on the show before. We open up the lines, and people always call in with the same questions: romance, employment, money. That's it. They're always the three same questions. And my question to these callers is, well, are you looking for a new job? Are you looking for new love? And are you doing what you can on your own to increase the money that you want? It's that simple. Like, why do people have to go to somebody on the outside to find out whether or not they are going to achieve their goals? Is there any psychological explanation for this, DJ?
As a matter of principle, that's one reason I bristle at this whole psychic advisor industry, really. It's that believers in those advisors, they give up a whole lot of personal responsibility over to someone who's not really qualified to give that sort of advice. Your question about is there a reason why people tend to always seek advice for the same sorts of things? Well, I believe that fact is well capitalized on by a segment of professional psychic advisors. If you know, and it's a numbers game, that the woman walking through your door in your psychic advisor shop, your astrology den, or whatever it is, if you know that they're going to ask the same sorts of questions, you can typically give the same sorts of answers. And indeed, this is one of the methods that we've understood that psychics often use, a set of psychological tricks to say the same sorts of advice to everyone. And doggone it, if the same sorts of advice to everyone doesn't generally apply to everyone. Not specifically, but generally. And that's because we are all people. We're all human. We all experience the same sorts of ups and downs in our lives. We all have money problems typically, or relationship problems, career questions, health issues. And that's one of the things that that really gets me going so much about these psychics, is that they prey on those natural life cycle kind of human experiences and the vulnerabilities that we all have in those various areas, and they prey on those insecurities in order to make money. Now, I'm not saying all professional psychics do that. There are categories of these psychics. But I think by and large, professional psychics use these same sorts of psychological tricks in order to appear to be connecting with the spirit world and giving specifics when instead they're just saying the same sorts of milquetoast pablum to everyone about the same typical sorts of problems we all experience.
In your opinion, DJ, is there such a thing as a real psychic?
Well, I think I'd have to say yes and no. And
all right.
I know that sounds a little complicated. I'll unpack it. So there are people who really believe they're psychics, but I don't believe, and in the decades Randi has investigated these sorts of claims, and the years I've been involved in skepticism and science education, there's never been any evidence to support the claims of the professional psychic. Now, that doesn't mean that they're all frauds, but I think even if they're not all knowing frauds, we've never found any evidence to suggest that any of them are real. There just hasn't been any compelling evidence. And by that, I mean maybe not every psychic knows that she's deceiving people, but if they don't, even if they don't know they're deceiving people, they're then deceiving themselves. They're using psychological tricks, friendly advice. I think there is a category of professional psychics who knowingly scam people. There's actually literature and training materials for a subset of professional psychic advisors that teach you how to cheat people out of money by inculcating these false beliefs.
Wow.
But I don't think they're all that cynical and that abusive. Some of them believe that God gave them a gift and they're just trying to help people. In one sense, that's even more insidious to me because they believe they're helping people when, if you look at the evidence, they're actually causing a lot of harm. Even the psychics who believe their abilities are real, they're causing a lot of harm.
My question to psychics in the past have been, well, if you're gifted, like you say you are, how come you've never picked the winning lottery numbers? You haven't been able to make a small fortune on the stock market or find a gold mine. And the patented excuse is we cannot use our gift on ourselves, only to help others.
Right. There are some brilliant, I think, impressive justificatory schemes that psychics present when challenged with common sense questions like that. Sometimes they say, well, God gave me the gift not for personal gain. Well, if not for personal gain, why are you charging people?
Exactly.
God gave me the gift not to make money, but to heal people, help people in their lives. Well, I think there are just some common sense criticisms of those sorts of justifications.
Recently, you led a group of zombies to confront celebrity psychic James Van Praagh. Now, what's so bad about what he does, and why did you decide to confront him in the way that you did?
James Van Praagh is one of the most prominent, we say, celebrity psychics. By that I mean not just someone who's offering advice, but someone who's become sort of rich and famous doing so. Sylvia Browne's in that category, the TV psychic John Edward, another one. What those three in particular, and a few others, purport to do is not just give psychic advice, which is often just, not helpful and sometimes harmful. They go even further. They say they are communicating with deceased loved ones. So you spend $100 or $300 to go to a James Van Praagh spirit circle, they call them, and maybe you've just lost your father or your child, or you're about to die. Maybe when we were there, we saw a woman who was in late stages of chemotherapy, and she was missing her hair, and she was looking for answers. The reason what James Van Praagh and his ilk do, the reason what they do is so offensive to me is because they are taking advantage of the grieving.
Yeah.
They say, you just lost someone? Well, here, I'm communicating with that loved one, and here's a message. By the way, give me money.
Yeah.
Right? Give me money for this service. A lot of money sometimes. They work people up the ladder. You start at a low level, and if you're credulous and you buy it, you go to longer seminars, maybe a cruise that costs thousands of dollars, or a weekend intensive spirit meeting, kind of a spiritualistic tent revival, something like that. And you could be wiped out. You could end up spending all of your money toward this kind of lie that says this guy's communicating with your deceased loved ones. It's bad because, on two levels, it's bad because, one, the process that it goes through is just so much of a performance. It's the same clauses, the same phrases that he uses all the time. And I've done a study of this. If you record a number of his performances, he says the same sentences all the time, regardless who he's giving the reading to. So it's just deceptive on that level, I think. And the second thing that's so offensive is that he's not just taking people when they're at the top, right? He's not a storefront psychic who gives a reading to someone who walks in her store on a lark, kind of just for fun. You're out walking in Manhattan or in Hollywood, and there's a neon sign on a storefront. And you say, oh, let's get a tarot card reading. You know, it's not just for fun. Instead, he is working with people when they are at their lowest, and he's giving them promises of connecting them with the spirit world. And I find that really manipulative and actually reprehensible. What we did was issue a challenge to him, $1 million challenge.
Right.
The James Randi Educational Foundation offers $1 million to any paranormal claimant who can prove under mutually agreed upon scientific conditions that their abilities are real. We issued him $1 million challenge. The media asked him about that, and he never commented. He ignored us, and he ignored the media. And so, since his claim is that he can talk to dead people, we thought, in order to shine a spotlight on his work and why we're critical of it, we thought we'd bring some, in quotes, dead people to his spirit circle. There's a number of volunteers with the foundation dressed up as zombies, and we did a sort of zombie flash mob at one of his recent events. And we were told they'd get someone to talk with us. We had a big $1 million check printed, James Von Prague, prove that your stuff is real and you'll get $1 million. And we were thrown out of the place.
Wow.
The video, I'm happy to say, sort of went viral. Tens of thousands of people have seen it, and it's been a good way, we think, to highlight this reprehensible thing that James Von Prague does. False promises to the grieving. It's the lowest of the low.
Why aren't these people brought up on criminal charges? It's fraud.
That is an important question, and the answer is they're not. As long as they're talking just words and engaging in spiritual services, they're not doing anything illegal because of the free exercise of religion clause in the U.S. Constitution, and because, say, Sylvia Brown, you know, she runs a church. Many people don't know this, but she's a 501c3 tax-exempt church. I don't know that in Prague, but, you know, these events are done under the umbrella of religion and freedom of religion. And because they don't do any physical trickery, they can't be prosecuted for fraud. Now, in the history of this movement, the spiritualist movement, of which Van Prague and John Edward and Sylvia Brown are all heirs, there was a time, decades ago, around the turn of last century, where practitioners of spiritualism didn't just use words and didn't just tell people they were talking to the other side, but they used glorified magic tricks. People didn't know they were magic tricks. They were lying. But they used magic tricks in order to inspire beliefs. And that's the sort of activity that magicians like Harry Houdini railed against. He lost his mother, and he was grieving. He was very close to his mother, and he wanted to do anything he could do to reach out to his mother on the other side, and he went to one of these spiritualism seances, and he caught the mediums cheating. And that incensed him so much that he made something of a career out of debunking their methods. He could do that because as a magician, he could see right through their methods. You know, he wasn't against actually lighting a match in a darkroom seance where you'd see the medium who was up to all sorts of chicanery. Today's mediums only use words, and in fact, at the largest spiritualist community in the United States, Lilydale in upstate New York, they have a ban on what's called physical mediumship. You're not allowed to bring those old spirit trumpets that purportedly levitated during seances. You're not allowed to have materializations of ghosts, which is nothing more than a sort of gauze that would come down from the rafters during a seance. There are a couple places still in the United States where physical mediumship can happen, but they're few and far between. Most of the stuff, especially at the John Edward level, that occurs is just words, and therefore it's protected really as a religious exercise.
Well, then you've got people like Madame Cleo, and I was really thrown back to find out that Sylvia Brown charges up to $700 for a 20-minute reading. I'm in the wrong business.
Right, there's a lot of money in it, and there are a lot of heartfelt, deeply believing people who are taken for a ride. And that's why watchdog organizations like the James Randi Educational Foundation kick into high gear when we see stuff like this. Not only the celebrity psychics, but the storefront psychics or the psychic surgeons or the televangelists who use chicanery during their services.
Right.
Years ago, James Randi was on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson.
Oh, listen, we've got to take another break here. Please stand by, DJ. Great having you with us. You'll have to come back on the show again because we still have so much to talk about. But you're going to be back with me when we come to this final segment on the other side of the break. Exo Nation, DJ Groethe is our special guest. www.randy.org. Don't go away.
I'm William S. Peckham. If you enjoy a good mystery with a touch of the paranormal, then you'll love my novel, From Out of the Woodwork. It's the story of a young Toronto contractor, Sean Kennedy, who buys derelict homes, guts them, and turns them into multifamily dwellings. Slums just waiting to happen. When Sean buys 29 Livery Lane, the house fights back. Former owners unexpectedly come out of the woodwork as he starts the destruction. The apparitions come to him when he touches old books, reads hidden letters, rummages through old boxes, finds a locket, or reads a discovered manuscript of a murder mystery. From Out of the Woodwork will take you from 1899 to the horror of the World Trade Center, September 11, 2001. Check out From Out of the Woodwork on my website, www.williamspeckham.com.
Back in Victorian England, a famous theologian posed a perplexing riddle. Why are the two top personalities in the Bible tagged with the numbers 7 and 11? Academics agree the answer is found in the stunning discovery of a hitherto secret Bible structure explained in a new book called The Genesis Grid. The discovery is so simple that preschool children could illustrate it. Certain claims are hugely controversial and may offend some, but at the X Zone, we've studied this awesome new book and agree with one expert, and I quote, "These discoveries appear to be beyond coincidence." So who or what hid this wonderful pattern in the Bible, and what might they do next? Find out more, X Zone Nation, and read reviews on www.genesisgrid.co.uk. That's www.genesisgrid.co.uk.
Welcome back, everyone. DJ Groethe is our special guest. He is the president of the James Randi Educational Foundation, www.randy.org. And here's something, DJ, that a lot of people do not know. And this is from the Canadian Criminal Code. Section 365 of the Canadian Criminal Code says everyone who fraudulently pretends to exercise or to use any kind of witchcraft, sorcery, enchantment, or conjuration, A, B, undertakes for a consideration to tell fortunes, or C, pretends from his skill in or knowledge of an occult crafty science to discover where in or in what manner anything is supposed to have been stolen or lost may be found, is guilty of an offense punishable on summary conviction.
Yeah, it's dumbfounding that in many jurisdictions, including the state of New York, it's illegal to pretend to be a psychic. It's just that our justice system is so beleaguered with, can we say, other crimes that these sorts of things don't often get prosecuted until they reach a level of serious embezzlement. Just saw a report from the Orlando area where a young psychic stole $136,000 from a woman.
Wow.
And those reports happen regularly. The Marks family in New York and Florida were just all arrested for stealing upward of $30 million over the last 11, 12 years from a series of very wealthy clients they had. So this stuff is not trivial. This is really serious criminal activity.
So let me ask you this. We've got about 2 minutes. How can people protect themselves from these kind of charlatans?
Well, the big issue for me is that when you go to a psychic, you're going to a psychic because you believe in it and you're looking for help. And the reason that's a problem is that these psychics lack real expertise in doing what they say they're going to do, which is help people with their problems. Psychics charade as health professionals, counselors, but they have no background in that. They sometimes pretend to help with law enforcement, finding dead bodies or missing people. If you're having real problems, let's say you're having money problems and you wonder, should you buy the house or should you sell the house or something? Who should you go to? A financial planner or a nice little old lady who says she has supernatural ability?
Oh, wait a minute. My hand's up. I'll go to the financial planner.
Exactly. Or let's say you're having relationship problems. Kim Kardashian, the pop culture personality, she went to a psychic advisor about her marriage. Why not instead go to a therapist who's degree and can help you with your problems?
That's right.
That's my beef with everyday psychics. They fake expertise. And if you're spending money, why not get real help?
Exactly. DJ, I want to thank you ever so much for joining us. Let our listeners know how they can contact the foundation for more information.
Randy.org is your best bet. You go to Randy.org and you'll see a whole host of resources, free materials that the Randy Foundation makes available to the general public. Digital outreach, we put on workshops, we put on a major conference every year in Vegas. A couple thousand people show up and a lot of celebrities to celebrate critical thinking and skepticism. So I invite your listeners, go to Randy.org and get involved with us as we try to advance critical thinking and skepticism, especially about these paranormal sorts of claims.
DJ, it's been a great pleasure talking to you. Thank you for doing the wonderful things that you do, and to thank all the people at the Randy Foundation. I hope that I have the opportunity of having you back on the show in the near future. Continued success, young man.
Thank you, sir. Appreciated the conversation.
Bye-bye now. Once again, that was DJ Groethe. He is the president of the James Randi Foundation, www.randy.org. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break at 6.5 minutes past the top of the hour as we continue here in the X Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell. Don't go away now.